everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a special episode, and it's all about entertainment and filmmaking and the process of being artists. So you have just tuned in to another episode of Crew Talks, and we are sponsored by Shoots.video. Thank you so much. And with no further ado, I am your host, Katie Chonakis. I have a popular podcast called She's All Over the Place, and I'm working in entertainment and film and TV. So we have Bitmax with us today. So how about we do a round and everyone can introduce themselves? How does that sound? And then we'll go into the questions.
Well, I'm Tristan Gregson. I'm the representative from the company Bitmax. The way it was introduced, it feels like it's a giant gorilla, but no, we are a technology company that publishes films, and I'm happy to be here today to talk about that process.
Awesome. And then what is the website? I was on the website last night and a couple times, but it was a little bit difficult to find you because now there's a cryptocurrency called Bitmax. So it was like, it took a minute, but how do people find you?
Some would say it always has been that way. Yeah. for the longest time, we have been very much kind of inside the industry. And I think that's what conversations like this are so important to enlighten filmmakers, because we don't have a flashy film distributor name with my lens flare. I got to get rid of that. We're a technology company first, that we also publish films. So when you think anything in that realm, you don't think small maximum, like that's not, again, we started as a technology company, and our website is also confusing. It's something we're working on updating. So if you look at it now, maybe we move files, which we do, and it's hard to say, but yes, it's digital distribution, it's encoding, it's archiving, it's a little everything. We are many different things to many different clients. I always like to say we're kind of like the Kevin Bacon of distribution, because at some level, something goes through us. That's how it works. It's a shame Jenica is on mute, because those laughs should be recorded. I'm working hard for these. Anyway, that's that's the elevator version of how do you take a crazy, stupid name like that. I say that with all apologies to our ownership.
What's the website?
Bitmax.net. Just go to bitmax.net. If you search for Bitmax, we better be in the top 2 results. If not, we're doing it wrong.
All right, bitmax.net. I personally have to tell you, when I found out about your company, I sent it to some of my filmmaker friends. I'm like, yo, do you know about this company? Do you know? Because, as filmmakers, we'll get into it. We're always looking for potential distribution. So now I can definitely, it's all word of mouth, like you said, having conversations here. So wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today. And we'll dive into some questions. So, okay. Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Lynn Baez. I am a comedian, a producer, production coordinator, comedy writer out here in Brooklyn, New York. So,
cool. Editing bay in Brooklyn by Montrose. I love Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, yeah. Brooklyn is very, very chill. I love it here. It's freezing, so I kind of wish I was over there, but...
Oh. Yeah, I have a condo in New York, so I live in both places, but love to the East Coast for sure. Tristan, where are you in the world right now?
Sunny Los Angeles for the next 20 minutes before this sun goes away. Yeah, definitely. Daylight savings time.
Coolio. So I guess we'll just jump into some of the questions, if that's cool.
Did we introduce Jenica?
Hi, I'm Jenica.
Hey, girl.
Hey, I'm an actress and filmmaker, and I also have a small boutique distribution and publishing company called Little Sister Entertainment. And I had already met Tristan before through Bitmax, so I'm excited to be here.
Spoilers to future conversations, very much so.
Wow, very cool, very cool. So I'm excited to deep dive into your story. And where in the world are you right now?
I'm also in Los Angeles until the sun goes down, and then it'll feel very cold outside, and I'll forget where I am.
Yeah. Yesterday was brutal. It was so moody. Cool. All right. Should we jump into the questions? Okay, great. Okay. So the first one I have on my board is in 2021. Let's say I finished the post on my film. Tristan, now what?
Oh, that's the $1 million question, right? What do you do when you make a thing, especially nowadays? Philosophically, I would say there's still a shockingly large number of people out there that still walk around like it's the 90s in terms of film distribution. They're always like, I'm going to make a thing, I'm going to meet a person or an entity, and they're going to take that thing off my hands in exchange for a check, and then that thing is going to find an audience, and it's going to be the greatest thing ever. which obviously is not the case. So you take that formula and you really just need to turn it upside down nowadays. This is the speech I give all the time, where it's just like, we live in influencer culture. We live in, find an audience for whatever it is you're doing, whether it's comedy, whether it's acting, whether it's cooking, or whatever it is. Make a premium product for them. Maybe it's a show, maybe it's a movie, and then put that in a marketplace where they can consume it. It's a rough lesson to learn, because a lot of people that call me have already made the first mistake, which was to go and make a thing and then think that someone's going to go buy it from them. So wherever you end up putting it, whether it's with a company like myself, or whether it's a distributor, or whether you do it kind of on your own website, or all kind of combination of those things, just changing that thinking is what matters to me the most, because the threshold to make something is so low, but know what you're going to do before you just shoot something.
Okay, cool. And then would you suggest maybe someone going and shooting a teaser, like a 2 to 5 minute teaser, and then presenting it to you maybe?
Not to me. I only work with finished product.
Okay.
This happens a lot with episodic. Someone's like, I shot a pilot. And I'm like, that is meaningless. What you really did was you shot what I hope is 30 minutes of video. And that is a short or one episode. If you can turn that into a series, we can have a conversation. Because where I exist in the pipeline, we aren't handing out funding to complete anything. We are looking at things that are done and saying, okay, well, where can we work with you to place content in platforms that will accept it? So, small idea proof of concept stuff is great, but that's usually for finding investors. I mean, that's the crowdfunding classes part of that process.
Okay, cool. And then we were mentioning TikTok and the era of social media and the shorter form content nowadays. Do you suggest maybe putting something like a 2-minute bit on TikTok or Facebook, and then getting audiences' reactions to it, and then maybe presenting it?
I love when a person asks me for advice about TikTok, because I am just barely old enough to have not signed up. My Vine account didn't go anywhere, and I still have a Snapchat for whatever people use that for. But it's just kind of idea of like where viewership is going. So as viewership gets younger and younger people consume more content, where is it going? And this is obviously a broad topic connecting to classic cable distribution, and my parents having a 3-hour argument with them on how to install a Peacock app on their television that doesn't connect to their DirecTV remote, so they'll never use it anyway.
Oh my God.
To kids that are like, oh yeah, everything in my life is through TikTok. I actually had a great conversation with America's Test Kitchen, which publishes their long form stuff on PBS. You can watch a cooking show there. They take that episode and they chop it in half and make YouTube pieces. They chop that thing that they already cut in half, they cut it into fourths, and they make TikToks. And they're engaging audiences all across the board. Where the dollar value comes in is going back up that stream to the top, where it's just like, okay, have our membership, subscribe to our stuff, pay for our seasons, but being able to reach at every level where their viewership is absolutely critical now. So again, when you think about traditional films, people are like, well, I made a 90-minute movie and I've got a 90-second trailer. Maybe I have a poster. I'm good, right? And it's like, not even close. Like, that's where are you gonna put that stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So hacking the 90s mindset, upgrading. So hopefully we can do it, massage it out during this beautiful conversation. Awesome. So
I get it. You can't help people that have already made stuff, but what you can do is you can leverage what you're making. And I think Jenica can speak to this a lot, where you talk to filmmakers and it's a dance of like, well, how can we market this? How can we get it to work for wherever you want to put it? Because you're not buying billboard ads. You're not buying bus stop ads. It doesn't matter what big of a major city. I'll drive down Los Angeles. I'll laugh at something I'll see on a billboard for a movie that I'll never see, being like, wow, we should have spent that money somewhere else. But that stuff is critical. And it comes up in many different ways, where it's just like, oh, well, now my filmmaking is going to be driven by what talent I can, associate with this. If this person has 1,000 Instagram followers, they are chewing cardboard on a scene, but they could probably get some impressions. That stuff's pretty critical nowadays. I feel like I've trailed off, but the idea is that you have to have impressions. You have to get people to look at stuff, because there's too much, and you can't just walk into a boardroom. I'll tell you, working in this business, I was shocked at how many people that made movies have learned all of their knowledge of the business of filmmaking through watching other movies, which makes sense and is crazy at the same time.
Or YouTube tutorials, right?
That's even giving him a little too much. That's the next generation. The prior generation was I watched a movie where you just go into a boardroom and you yell about how great your thing is and you hit the table a bunch and eventually some guy in a suit takes your movie and he's smoking a cigar and everyone's happy. Now the next generation will be like, I watched 80,000 YouTube tutorials. I bought the best, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera I could afford, and I used DaVinci, and I self-taught myself all this, and now I got to a distributor. You still don't know. Okay, so you got it to somebody what to do, but at least you got that far, which the prior generation, maybe they even shot it on film. I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you mentioned someone wanted to chime in. Does anyone want to chime in on what we're talking about before we move on?
I was going to ask, because of all the information is coming out so quickly, ideally, Tristan, when do you want a filmmaker to message you? Like, go to bitmax.net today to learn anyway. But ideally, like on the filmmaker journey, what's the best time to meet them? Because she was offering before they start or anything like that. Where do you want to meet somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk to somebody when they have a completed package and they're kind of shopping around their different options of what to do with it. Ideally, you're having meetings with distributors, you're showing them your deck and everything else you can offer to somebody. And where Bitmax fits into the equation is if you feel like you can leverage your title on your own and you don't need lofty promises of especially marketing, you can kind of come to us direct with a finished product and we can get you on the platform. So ideally, again, you've got a feature film that's done, or short film or series or whatever it is. You've got some basic poster element assets, and you have some basic understanding of your metadata, the information that's associated with your film. And then I'm happy to talk to you. I talked to plenty of people before that stage, but those are the ones where it's just like, remember the name, come back when you're ready. But the idea is we're not the only stop. We are the self-distribution option. We are the if you don't feel like you're getting what you want out of the distribution deals that are out for you, I am very happy where I work because it's all very clean. It's all very like, for this, I can do this. I'm not.
And you've been there about 3 years, right?
Coming up on 4 now. Yes.
4. Okay.
I've only been in Hollywood for about 5.5 years. And when I showed up in town, kids, I was working as a production assistant on reality TV casting. So it can happen to you in 5 years. You can also be next to people that are distributing movies.
So real quick, where did you come from and what's your education? Like, did you go to college for anything that you're involved in?
I did go to college. I went to a shitty for-profit film school college that I don't even want to like give their name to give them credit because really I did it. But I spent my 20s not being an adult, which is common nowadays. And then when I turned 30, I kind of had this epiphany moment where I was like, shit, I should become an adult. I wasted a bunch of money getting a film degree, but I had drive and I had vision that I was like, I was going to move to LA. I was in Berkeley and I made it work. Again, I was standing outside Jimmy Kimmel in the summer of 2016, asking people if they wanted to go on Let's Make a Deal. That was my life at one point. Yeah.
So you went to school for film though. Okay.
I did. And kids, you're all wondering out there, do I want to drop 60 grand on a piece of paper that says I can set up a camera? No, but there's a lot you do actually learn from going through that process. I am much better at all the jobs I've had in this town because I went through that experience of learning how to be on a crew, learning how to set stuff up. Like, because people can pick up point and shoot stuff and they can do whatever. And I worked in a camera facility after I was not harassing people on the street about being on game shows. So I have done some things before I ended up in film distribution. But that knowledge was critical. And I don't think you can, maybe you can do that with just tutorials. I don't know. Most people are talking about the same kind of equipment though, because it's prosumer equipment. Like you can't get your hands on an Arri Alexa. You can't get your hands on a Sony Venice camera if you're just watching tutorials. Like you kind of need to go through some motions and actually do some stuff, get Mobi Pro certified, like be able to do these things. And it's all camera department side. The same applies to other aspects of it, if it's lighting, if it's grip, if it's all those kind of things. The only thing you don't need it for, and where I am now, which is hilarious, is the business side of things. Like you could just go get a business degree. You could make your parents happy. Go get a math degree, a business degree, and still come work with movies all the time. Because those are the people that eat first. Don't shake your head at me, Jenica. This is the truth of the matter. They are very important. We all love artists. There's a few too many on this call, but the people that eat first are the people with the business degrees.
Thank you for sharing. Does anyone want to say anything before I move on to the next question?
I feel like there is a misconception there about coming to Bitmax as being a plan B to a distribution. And I feel like I'd want to give you the opportunity to like reframe that, because I think that's how it came across, because that's also what I hear from filmmakers. When they think of self-distribution, they think of 5-10 years ago, and there was a few different small companies that have a self-distribution model that advertised at film festivals. All over the country, I'd meet people who would be like, well, or you could self-distribute. And they meant it as a plan B, not as an alternative that was better for the project. So why would I stop at you first instead of second?
Well, I do appreciate the softball. And it's kind of what I was talking about previously, where it's about your strategy to engage audience. Because to me, people that sign with a distributor for a very long contract length for some kind of crazy recoupable is because they are deathly afraid that they don't know how to reach and engage an audience. And they think that whoever they're talking to can magically make that happen. And when you talk to me, I'm not going to oversell. Like I put movies on platforms that don't do business. They are technically sound. They look and sound correct, which is my job to make sure they have the right artwork, everything's the right aspect ratio. But no one's engaging them with them because no one is there. You know, there's a common thing that happens to me. It's like, okay, my movie's going to go up on Apple TV. What day? It's like, okay, here's the day. Okay, I booted up my Apple TV. I don't see it. Well, yeah, you're not in the top 20 titles of that day. Like, you know, do you have much content's made? So come to me first if you know how to engage your audience, how to drive traffic to those places where you can get it. Come to me second if you don't have that and you're unsure about yourself and you're learning that you can be sure about yourself to get your audience. Because let's be real, every filmmaker out there is listening to this. You know your audience better than any person in any room is going to tell you that they know it better. That's just not true. That's salesmanship. That's the BS-ery of like, you know, come by our oceanfront property in Arizona or however the song goes, things like that. Like, don't do that. But come to me first if I know my audience. I know how to get my audience. They're already following me on Insta. You know, I already have patrons. Like I did a crowdfunding campaign. Like I know how to, you know, I get that mailing list thing, which is something that's slowly dying off on. But if any of that stuff exists, a regular distributor will look at that as huge leverage because it's legwork you already did that they don't have to do. It's like, great. I don't have to go and find, you know, 8,000 people that you've interacted with on social to mail them that your movie's coming out. Like you already did it for me. So if you can do that, definitely call me first.
Great. I don't know if we should deep dive into more of like how to find your audience. Do you have tips on that of what people can do if they're not good at getting an audience and finding an audience? Like some people are the creators, but they're not good with the promoting and marketing side. So, and it's a business, like you said. So are you sharp in those areas where you have some insight of how people can obtain an audience?
I'm smarter than the average bear, but I'm never going to get on the phone with somebody and be like, I know how to make your movie work. And I have plenty of anecdotal evidence after, you know, watching thousands of films come across my eyes of like, oh, that looks like it's going to be good. That's definitely everyone's ever going to watch that. And obviously there are surprises everywhere in between. But I think, you know, kind of what you're talking about dovetails into kind of more of Jenica's space where, you know, to me, the nice thing about having both of us on this conversation is that, you know, I'm working with the filmmaker that is 100% empowered, 100% driven, 100% knows who they want to find. And Jenica's working with filmmakers that maybe don't know that kind of stuff, where she has expertise that can help them reach that audience and engage with people because she's been doing it longer than I have. And I don't even look at it because I don't have the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of distributors have a different essence. Like if Amanda, who's in comedy, is working with certain filmmakers and working on stuff that's going to be with distributors that really handle that well and have expertise in that area and know how to, like, it's not about your individual movie anymore, which I think is some of the stuff that like Bitmax is able to carry now. And I think a lot of distributors are grasping about their own branding and who they are. And I don't want my film to just be a one-off. I want my film to be, I know what A24 movies are going to be like. I know I don't like so-and-so's movies. You know, you just want to like have an idea of your branding is connected to a distributor, or your idea of the branding is connected to your filmmaker's brand, your filmmaker's relationships and what they put out in the world, their career longevity. And somebody who has that kind of confidence, or their own marketing team working with people who already know where you want it to go. You know, a lot of filmmakers I meet have an a la carte strategy. Like, I want it to be these places. I don't need it to be these places. And if you know that already, then it's easy to work with somebody. There's lots of different distributors that have a more a la carte. You can make your own decisions and you can work with a team to figure that out. But at the same time, a lot of distributors are still just creditors, where they're just putting out the marketing money, or I can give you this money so that you can market this movie, knowing you might not make all of it back. I just really need you to market this movie. So when I think of a distributor as a creditor, I know some people at Bitmax do not like that you've been labeled as an aggregator.
It's just a dirty word from prior generations. Like,
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm glad we're laughing about it, because it's confusing to some people, and it carries a lot of baggage from, prior transgressions, which I totally understand. We unfortunately, when the big boys in the room, where it's just like, what does Apple want to call you? They want to call you an aggregator, because what is an aggregator? An aggregator is one that takes the individual things and brings them all together and, puts them all in a place. They aggregate, quite literally. We do want to change it to self-distribution, to kind of like the empowerment of direct film licensing on your own. Will we get there? I mean, if companies like Apple would just change their website, yes, then we could change the world that way. In the interim, we are kind of stuck with this, like, aggregators are a dirty business. And I'm on the personal mission to be like, well, we're only as dirty as I will tell you straight out we are. And hopefully that's not very much. It's, you pay us this, we do that. That's it. That's all it. It's all over. But I do want to come back to what you were saying about kind of branding, because I do think that is a place where small distributors still have a leg up. Because again, if you're looking at a brand like an A24, you have an expectation of stuff that's in that brand. So if you're an individual filmmaker that feels like you align with that, then you are much more interested in being like, okay, well, you might not have direct marketing cap for my specific movie, but if people see your branding surrounding my title, they're already going to be drawn to it, which is great. And again, on the other component of my business, working on just the encoding side, we love that, because we love working with distributors that are bringing us content to encode and deliver that have a steady flow of that same kind of stuff, if it's in their genre or their type or whatever it is, because I can't do that.
Cool. Great. Let's keep it moving. So why would I go straight to an encoding facility with direct deals over signing with a traditional distributor?
It is, the way that question is framed, it is confusing, because again, we're just an encoding facility. What do? The upside is that we have a direct relationship with a platform, and you are cutting out as many middle entities as possible. There's still a middle entity. We are your middle entity. You can't call Tim Apple and be like, take my movie, and he's going to say, who? But we can get it there, and then we are the only party that's keeping, your audience on that platform from, your pocket getting the money that comes into it, because my head is literally right here, have to process all that stuff in the middle. Where if you go to any other level, you're adding in other levels. If you go to a distributor, they may have other agents that you're using to go to different places, and all of a sudden the pie gets split up a million ways. So that is the most empowering. If I was telling 6 years ago me about this, I'd be like, oh my God, that's so great. I didn't know I could just call this place up. They would talk to me and I could get a movie out there. That's great. That isn't enough. You kind of need to know a little bit of what you're doing, but that is the step one in why you would call me.
And then, for example, if I called you and I'm like, I want to have a deal with you and with Bitmax, are all deals the same, or are they all different? Is it a 1-year contract? We're going to see how you're going to do 6 months, 1 year. Like, how do you do the contracts?
It's all uniform. We are a volume business. I do not have the bandwidth to get into the nuance of like, well, we want to do 18 months and we want to do 5 years. We want to do this. The nice thing is, because we're self-distribution and we're non-exclusive, if you pay us to do the work, we publish a movie, and then a week later you sign the, amazing princess deal to get your movie on Netflix, and you need us to pull it, we can pull a movie from somewhere. I like to say we're a carpenter, we're a mechanic, we're a plumber, we're a contractor. You pay us to do the work. After that, it's whatever. It's not like we're coming and checking in with you like, how are the pipes every week? Everything good? We want to make sure it's working out for you. That is where we exist. So I tell clients, and again, this is to keep them empowered, keep reaching for those other opportunities. Just by signing with us, you're not done necessarily in this process. Now, I'll also tell you the dirty truth is, if you do publish this stuff to places that we have access to, all of a sudden you start to look less attractive to other distributors, because the low-hanging fruit is already gone. Like, right. Oh, you've already sucked up all this transactional video on demand money that I wanted a piece of. I have to work harder to get your movie into places because I don't have that kind of access. So know that going into it, but it keeps coming back to know your audience, find your audience. If you can do that, you should be calling the encoding house that has direct deals first, as opposed to Googling distributors in my area and reaching out to people.
That I was wondering, what don't you cover? Like, if somebody wanted to do their movie in more than just streaming transactional, like what is the scope?
The biggest hole in our offerings would probably be subscription video on demand, because subscription video on demand services almost always require a unique agreement to be formalized and signed off on. And we just don't do that because we're not doing things on a granular basis. We are experts at transactional video on demand, advertiser supported video on demand. That stuff's easy. We know how to do it. It's all that other space. Like if you need special theatrical, or you need a special, physical media printing, or any of those kind of things, we aren't going to be able to help you. So if you can find a company like an Arrow or a 1091 or something that can do those kind of things for you, and they're willing to take you on, and it's important to your audience, definitely go to a place like that, because I don't have that visibility.
And can you break that up between companies? Like, give me the examples of what subscription video on demand that you don't cover, and if those things can be covered in separate, like it wouldn't change anything because you said you're non-exclusive.
Correct. So when you come to us and you're like, okay, and this is a common call. The common call is, I want Netflix and I want to do transactions on places like Apple because that's top dollar. And you're like, okay, great. One of those I could take care of completely. The other one, best of luck. If you get that agreement signed, whether through your agent or your distributor or yourself, whoever you do it, we would love to be your encoding facility because we could still deliver it at their spec, which is a whole other thing. But that first part, that transactional part, we can do, and it's non-exclusive. So we can take care of that. That is where the line is drawn. If you come in saying, I have to have A, B, C, and D, and I'm only going to work with you if I can do all of those, I might not be able to do it. But as we said, if I can do A and B and you're going to have a conversation with somebody else, it's like, well, I'll only take it if I can do A, B, C, and D. Maybe you have to go with that person. But again, I like that it's transparent to me. Here's what I can get you to. Does that work for you? Keep reaching for the stars. Keep going to other places.
Okay. Speaking of VOD, video on demand, my next question here is, how do I market a film when it's available on VOD?
Through all those sources you have access to. I mean, all these titles have direct links, which is really how you kind of drag yourself out of, unsearchability. One of the poorest kept secrets is if you do pre-sales on a title, if you have a direct link to a title and you drive traffic to it before its street date or its live date, all that energy, all that effort you exert up to that release date, let's say you get 8,000 impressions, you get 4,000 transactions. On the first day of release, all of those sales count towards day one. So it looks like 4,000 people immediately signed on and downloaded Trolls 3, even though it was 6 weeks of people pre-ordering it for their kids so they'll shut up for 90 minutes. So that's why you always see the big studio titles on these top carousel ads where it's always like, here's the new and trending and popular, because they always put all that energy into their marketing to make sure that they're there. Someone will call me and be like, okay, I got to be on an Apple carousel. Like, what do I do? What does it cost? And you write a check. And it's like, I would love to take that check. I can't take that check. Spend that money in marketing your title ahead of time. Get it package completed with us, get it hosted to a platform, get a pre-sale link, then drive traffic to that pre-sale link. Go ahead and buy I hate to say Facebook or Meta's name out loud, but if you're going to give them money and get traffic, whatever, do what you got to do. Use that energy to drive traffic to your title, to get engagement with your title. And that's how you kind of become cream out of all of this crop.
So you really think it's better to market in free when it drops? And that's what you just initially said. Now, what if so that's how you got on the carousel in the beginning, but what if you're dumping marketing money into it while it's out, like after it drops?
Same type of strategy applies. It's just harder when you're already in the marketplace to feel new and feel fresh. And there are many opportunities to refresh. And this is some definitely inside baseball strategy where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do a couple of platforms initially. I'm going to do like a little media burst that I did those platforms. And then I'm going to roll out to some other platforms the next few months, which gives me an excuse to say, hey, same movie, new spot. And the same thing with additional localized assets. So it's like same movie, now available in Latin American Spanish and Latin American territories, but also if you're at home, you can watch it with Latin American localized time text as well. It's a reason to have an email blast. It's a reason to have a new social media post to say, same movie, same people, same thing, but new bells and whistles. Got to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
It
Very
sounds
cool.
like you would have a lot of ideas about like what trends are happening. For instance, years ago, it would be different that you'd want a huge day and date release. You'd want to make sure that everything happened at once. And just the idea now that you're saying there's more opportunity to post about it. There's more opportunity to do this if you spread it out, like you do like a systematic rollout. Are you able to share all those trends and what's going on? Is that part of like your relationship is with the filmmakers directly, that you'd be able to counsel them in brand new marketing strategies that everybody else is doing?
So my own stuff is all anecdotal because it's just what I see on my own. And I don't have hard client data to pass out to people because of confidentiality. But I would say that, and this kind of dovetails into reporting. We're as good at giving clients information as we are at getting it from different partners, and it's not the same. People get very frustrated, understandably, in this day and age when they're like, "Yeah, I put my movie up on Google Play and I didn't get my sales data yesterday." You're like, yeah, it's going to be a minute. It's going to be a week. It might be a month. Meanwhile, places like Apple are very tech forward. In the North America, you're going to get it, twice, 3 times a week, and you're going to get zip code geodata in North America. So if you were putting, marketing dollars into local ads in Madison, Wisconsin, and you all of a sudden saw more sales and rentals in that area, you could see it's working. That stuff is still tough to do because you can't see in the VOD space. You rarely are able to see very quick, actionable kind of things. So yes, you're right. It used to be all about day and date because we were more physical. You're buying newspaper ads. It's going to get stale. They're only going to see it once. Now, and this is another reason why kind of so many small distributors have kind of popped up and kind of stayed propped up, is that long tail opportunities are massive. Just think about anyone that's listening to this, how you watched media 3 years ago, how you watched media 5 years ago, how you watched media 10 years ago. It has changed so much so quickly that as long as you have a title, it's going to be new in new places for a very long time. That's why, we all see the hoop dreams of like, oh yeah, you only need to make one ET and you're set for the rest of your life, or it's one of like 30 for that particular party. But the point is, like, you can have one thing and you can continue to make it happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. How many times we bought Star Wars on VHS as kids? Am I right? No one on this call? That's right. You're too young. It's okay. But the point is the same, that yes, you should find a way to keep making it fresh and new, even though it's the same thing.
So I have speaking of titles, I have a question about titles in VOD. However, first, speaking of the audience, I have a live question from someone in the audience. And so does my film need to participate in festival nowadays? Is it worth it?
That feels like a layup too. No, I get that one all the time. Festivals are tough because festivals are fun. Festivals are a lot of times, it's the first step in being like, hey, mom and dad, remember you didn't believe in me for 20 years? Look at me now. I'm at the Livermore Film Festival. Most times those accolades aren't going to open any new doors. Even the top of the top of the top nowadays, it's kind of like, oh, you were at Sundance? Okay, great. What are your Insta impressions? Like what kind of like total hits are you going to get off of this thing? It's not that you were there. So I'm not the only one to say this. Festivals are really passé. You do them for fun. You do them, to show mom and dad you did something. But at the end of the day, especially with these VOD platforms, all those laurels get stripped off those posters anyway, because we are in such an ADD world that you want to see, Orange Fire Festival Square, and you might watch that movie. You're not going to be like, oh, what does that one say? I'm going to zoom in real close. Oh, Toronto East. Okay, well, I guess I'll watch that. That's just the truth of the matter. It's the world we live in.
I'm going to disagree.
There's actually, oh, great. I'm glad.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it down. I've been on the festival circuit for over a decade, and my experience isn't exactly what you're saying for direct-to-consumer marketing. I think it is useless in the consumer sphere. I don't think there's a single person who clicked on your video and watched your video today that cares that you went to a film festival. However, I think direct-to-consumer is half of your marketing efforts. I think that your inter-industry relationships are the reason that you make movies at all. Your inter-industry relationships is the only reason you get hired again, or you get financing again, or you have a niche audience. When you go to Toronto East, what was the example?
There's East. Livermore is my favorite. That's too high. Livermore is a small wine town outside of Napa that wishes it was Napa. That's the 1%er joke. So it's the same thing for film festivals. Toronto East is actually probably pretty big.
There's small festivals that exactly what you're saying that are so niche that nobody ever wants to see your laurel. And then there's medium film festivals that you go year after year because you have relationships there and you build up so that when you don't get into a film festival and you need to get awards for something, you just call up your friends who you've seen 100 times, and that festival director gives you a break a little bit. It's not to say that you pull strings, but it is to say that if you consistently sell out seats, You get free audience testing to go back and revisit the edit on your movie because something's not working. You get free audience, like, I'm aggregating, pulling all of these people together that follow this one social media feed, so that when I say I won Bentonville Film Festival, nobody cares who's watching it. But next time I have my next movie, it's part of your branding and your career as a filmmaker, is I tag Bentonville Film Festival to say my next movie's coming out here. They share it on their social media, and that is furthering your brand as a filmmaker. So most people who are clicking, which I think is the majority of what this conversation is about, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to making movies, if you do not do the film festival circuit, you're missing the key aspect of keeping relationships and legs under you. Let's say you hit it huge and you win at Sundance and you have all these things and you go once and then it doesn't have any value for your life. But if you've been at Sundance for 18 years and you win it once, it is a very different experience. You go to any film festival that you've been going to for years and the audiences respond better, the film festival directors respond better. Obviously the jury, having to get to, gotten to know you, they respond better. There's more awards, there's more things to get out of it. But also, like, I'm an actor, I'm a filmmaker, I'm sure Amanda, as a comedian, when somebody recognizes you and knows you, that's a fan. And like 1,000 dedicated fans does translate to the clicks that matter in the direct-to-consumer space, because then you have actual fans. Your friends and your family are not your fans.
They're Amanda, do you want to chime in on anything? What do you think about the film festival circuit? Have you partaked?
I'm alive, guys. I'm here. Hey. Sorry, I was just learning so much from what you all were saying.
Deep breaths.
Yeah, I was like, wow, where's my notebook? But no,
just do the playback.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with Tristan and Jenica. I think film festivals they are a lot of fun, and it's great to just network. You never know who's going to be there, who's going to just take your project and just bring it up to the, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it also depends what festival it might be, but it's rolling dice. Like, I was just at Doc NYC, and they've been around for 12 years, and I'm a huge documentary fan. And just for me going, and I was a PA on their one film that they made 3 years ago, and they invited me out because it finally came out, and meeting like Emmy award winning directors and just like them following me back on Instagram. Like it's a new pair of eyes watching what I post now, you know what I mean? And like, they want to go to my comedy show. Yeah. They want to do this, or, cool. They're sharing things that I've posted. And it's like, wow, I just gained like 800 followers from that. Like, you know what I mean? So it's,
the social currency is huge, and I think that's what you're both talking about. It's not about your film, it's not about that laurel that no one's ever going to read. It's about the interpersonal relationships that Jenica's making with the people that either run these things or are regular at these things that you can network with and business with. And this is true about everything in Hollywood. You go to all these, Tuesday night weird premiere things where you're like, I could be at home not wearing pants, but you're like, I might meet somebody that's going to turn into some great business contact 5 or 10 years down the road. You just have to do it. And we, that culture gets made fun of, that, all people in LA do is just go to cocktail hours for movies they're never going to watch. But really, it's work. You're meeting people. And in this hyper social media day and age, it goes even further, because it's not just about like, oh, I remember that kid, he was spunky, like the next time I need a PA for something. It's, oh, wow, that person over there has, 200,000 Instagram followers for their sneaker, TikToks or whatever. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, but are they real or fake followers?
That's
like the next question.
That is
true, it depends. It's not hard to see what kind of actual currency it goes to. And I'd like to think that if you're in LA actually being at these events, you can only run that scam for so long. But it's the day and age we live in. So very much, I do see the value there. I'm also the guy that when I was making movies, I didn't have a year to devote to a festival circuit, and I'm not making a movie or representing a movie every year. So that's tough. That's the business side. That's where you get a producer who can do that, because they're already going to those events and they can bring your stuff along with you or tell you this one's good, this one's bad. Like this one's just, old white guy money and all they want to do is make Jesus movies. Don't go to that one unless you've got one of those things.
Well,
I'm not speaking from direct personal experience now, am I? No, I am.
there are thousands and thousands of film festivals, and my advice from people in the industry is do 4 years and up, because the first years they come and go. So if you're going to submit to film festivals, a lot of times I've been told you can ask not only early bird, you can say, hey, do you have a waiver or like a discount? Even if they don't offer one, you can like email, and normally they'll all give you one. So there's some tidbits for people who want to maybe explore film festivals and save money and get involved in a social way and business way as well. I know we're like flying through here, so I want to get to some more of these questions. Circling back around to VOD, how do titles succeed in the VOD marketplace in coming up in 2022?
Everything we've been talking about. I mean, hopefully if you're listening to this and as this ages, it's going to be people that haven't made stuff yet. You can put these things in place ahead of time. And you can set yourself up for success in those places, so you aren't as surprised if you borrowed, whatever the phrase is, borrowed, stolen, whatever else, to make a thing and then find out there's no audience for it. Don't do that. Learn this stuff, whatever your craft is, to engage, get people interested, and then make that premium product for them in 2022 is my hope. If you're out there if you're aspiring to make something next year, you're tired of sitting at home for COVID, you got all your boosters and you're going to go make something, think about everything I've said in the last 43 minutes.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to enjoy the playback on this. Okay, so why are closed captions such a big deal?
They are a big deal because the FCC in the United States requires them. And not all are created equal, and not every platform accepts the same formats. I'm going to get very animated about this because I enjoy nothing more than when someone gets on the phone with me and is like, I opened Premiere Pro and I wrote all the words down, and then I hit center and I sent it to you and you're telling me it failed. We live in such a technology diverse space now. We need agnostic files. This is true of video. This is true of audio. This is true of timed text. So a lot of independent filmmakers can know their audience. They can make the thing for their audience. They can make a great snazzy trailer. They can get a friend to make a great poster. They can show up at my door, and then they can languish in failures because their time text, aka closed caption files, never get across the finish line. So do it right, or get somebody that does it right, is huge, because all that marketing energy that you want for, your July 4th weekend release is worthless if you call me in March and you never get a time text file done. Jenica, I'm sure, has opinions about this. I'm sure you've lived through this nightmare.
I'll always pay for closed captioning and never make it anybody's problem. Never complain ever. Just do it.
And where do you find yours on WeWork, Fiverr? I mean, they do it for like nothing. You can just have an admin.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Tell me. Tell us.
Well, first of all, my company nowadays we're actually rolling it into our pricing structure. So it is such a headache for us that we are straight up eliminating the headache. What we did was we found what the nominal price was. We just raised our price to include that, and it's just like, you don't have to worry about it. That being said, we do work with a wide variety of clients that already have some time text issues. Places like Caption Labs. This is not sponsored. I'm shouting them out because anytime I get something from Caption Labs, it passes. And it's just like, oh, we're on to the next thing. The 800-pound gorilla in the room is Rev.com. I want to love them. Amy, my rep who just came through last month, great scones. Haven't sold me on your service yet, but they're working on it because they have an automated system. It's $1 a minute, and the automated system that's created by a computer fails all the time. Thank you for nodding, Jenica, because usually the independent distributors are the ones that are like, no, it's totally fine. It's all fine. They have more human options. They are working on increasing it. Also, not sponsored, not paid for by them. It is more to get it done by a human operator, but they have an Uber system now where it's like they use independent contractors to get time text done, and the more success rate, their rating goes up and they get more work. So in theory, this new process will help time text files be easier to obtain high quality ones. Do not go to Fiverr. Do not open Premiere. Do not ask your cousin that speaks Swahili to translate it for you. Get it done by somebody that knows what they're doing.
Oh, so pay them a little more to save a lot of headache later for you and the team.
I know I had to go to film school to learn this. There's this thing called the triangle of production. In the triangle of production, we have three things. We have time, we have quality, and we have money, right? Something always has to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
That's closed captions all the time. It's always sacrificed in terms of quality.
Yeah. You really hit it. Thank you for that. It's the importance. And now we understand why.
That's part of the decision making, is that when you go to certain types of distributors or in the self-distribution model, there's a lot to take into account. And when it comes to that money, if you don't have the money to like go through each step with your errors and omissions insurance, to finish your distributor, all of your, every single thing that you need to do to finish your movie and put it out in the world. If your deliverables are not going to be done and your closed captioning is not going to be done, I feel like it's okay. Like if you are watching this and you have a movie right now and you're out of money and you're done, it's okay to go around to distributors and straight up say, I don't have a penny more. And there are distributors who will help you because they're set up to be a creditor. And you'll just pay it on the back end, and that is a good deal.
And what does that budget look like? I know it can be different for every project, but what is some cushion a filmmaker can put aside to say, oh, I want to just have this for the things you both just mentioned? Like how many thousands of dollars or even $1,000 or, so they're not tapped out, bringing nothing to the table. Or if they are, and they're going to get it from the back end deal, how much is that around for that admin stuff, the important things that need to be done?
Yeah, and because the range can be pretty broad based on what people need or how long they just go through this kind of endless cycle of failures. And if anyone has ever written a budget, and I know, right, a lot of PTSD personally on that one. Again, anyone who's ever written a budget, you always want to overblow initially. You always want to make sure you have enough cushion. You never want to, and this is the thing, when I talk to people, they are standing in front of the finish line. They are standing there and they're like, I'm done broke. I'm out. I spent every penny, as Jenica has already mentioned. So to me, I will tell people, I'd be like, try to find $5,000. I know you can't, try to. And odds are that's going to be more than enough. And the best thing is you're going to throw a great party for yourself once you get there with the extra that's left over. But you never want to be the guy that's like, $2,000 all you really need, because for a lot of jobs, thank you. It is all you really need. But if you hit any snag, all of a sudden it isn't. And we're exactly where we were when I first got on the phone with you, which is I'm out of money and I'm standing in front of the finish line. So if at all possible, budget it in. Film school did teach me this. We had a great post budget. We had a great wrap party because we stayed under our post budget. That lesson learned.
Yeah, I think this is kind of brewing into my next question, which is some of the things we've talked about. But why do movies fail on the technical side and then on the profit side as well?
Technical side's really easy because that's also where I can flex my education. Because nowadays people are using different cameras. Like you got a GoPro and you've got an A7S III and you've got a Blackmagic Cinema, and they're shooting at different frame rates and they're shooting at different frame sizes. And a lot of times you don't notice because the average eye isn't going to see a 23:976 frame and a 29:97 frame and any difference. You put them into a timeline, and it used to be that like Final Cut 7 wouldn't let you work with it because it'd be dummy proof and be like, you can't put these pieces of footage in the same timeline. They're different rates. No. And nowadays software is smart enough, probably wrong, that it makes the frames that are missing. So for all the way back to 101, if the horse is running and you have 24 pictures of it and you move it really fast, it looks like it's a moving horse. If you have another series of flip book for a horse and there's 30 pictures and they try to put them together, well, the one with 24 is missing to catch up to this one. So the software will automatically make the missing components. And this is what we get, what we call a 4:1 cadence or repeat frames. Because for every 4 frames, the software has gone and made a frame to catch up to another playback speed. And that will fail at platforms because on the digital side, they're looking for that kind of thing. And if your stuff doesn't play seamlessly, they're not going to take it. And that's always a heartbreak for people that I talk to, where it's like, yeah, we shot this over 2 years and it was all this guerrilla stuff and it's really great. We got all these different things. And it's like, well, you got vignetting here and you've got a 4:3 letterbox here. And then you also have stuff with, I know it's a documentary, but there's only so much leeway. And if it's not a documentary, there's no leeway. So yeah, on the technical side, and we haven't even got to out of sync audio, popped audio, non-existent audio, loose audio, all that other stuff. Just on the picture side, that's the biggest takeaway for kids nowadays is check your camera settings. Everything you're working with has got to be the same. Because I've definitely been on the call with people where they have that epiphany where they're like, I don't know what's going to happen.
But also in it, I told 1,000 to everything you're saying. I'm just saying, like, as a creator, I'm thinking, I'm like contemplating, but as a person who's gone out and shot a bunch of content, like if you have a dope editor and colorist, with vignettes and, different filters nowadays with the kids and making things look cool and multidimensional. Even if something shot, as long as even if it's blurry, I guess, not the whole thing, but I guess there's always ways for in post-production to do things on a technical level. If it goes with the story, to put a different filter or something on it, right? If it's not maybe just going to be cinematic and clean.
There's a big gray area there, because now we're touching on a lot of things. We're touching on artistic intent, which is great for music videos. Music videos can be, all the audio can be off, and it can be just a vomit color for 4 minutes and no one cares. When it's a narrative film, the expectation is a little bit different. And for frame sizing, sometimes that's easier to solve, because if you shoot at a resolution that's large enough, you can punch in and you're not going to lose what is going to be the viewable resolution. And this is why the red cinema camera family, if we want to go back to the technical side and kind of adjacent to what we're talking about, it's a bro camera because it shoots at 8,000 8,000 pixel resolution, because they're all so shitty at shooting that they can always punch in and it's still in HD and they're just fine. So they never have to frame something properly because they got 8,000 pixels, bro. It's going to get caught. Don't worry about it. But when you've got a cell phone and a Sony tiny camera and you've got stuff that's not lining up properly, if you punch in too much, all of a sudden you're pixelating because you're not at full HD or things like that. So there is some finesse. I don't care what any post editor or colorist will tell you, they cannot create frames and pixels that do not exist. That's where the fallacy is. You can't just go and make stuff to fill in gaps of things that aren't there. You can't, if blacks were crushed and you didn't shoot a high enough dynamic range, you can't just lift the whites and make more black color depth. That's just not a thing. It's just so there's some space. Like, again, if you can punch in and you can always get consistent frame size, you're fine. But it's everyone out there that didn't, that's like, nah, man, I'm gonna run through DaVinci, it's gonna be fine. It's like, no, actually it's not. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have less than 7 minutes left. I want everyone to do a lightning round, introduce, say hello of who they are, how they can find you. But there is a question from the audience that I would like to get to really quick. So Mark says, I have sold rights with a few of our non-movie shows worldwide back in the 80s to early 2000s, and now all has changed with too much out there, it seems. Any tips for now?
So, Mark, are you looking to take content from the 80s to the early aughts and put it on VOD? Because that is still a very profitable opportunity. It may not be in premium transactional video on demand, but this is where places like advertiser-supported video on demand, free TV, or in many ways the TV that we all grew up with as kids, has come back to life. So places like Tubi TV, I probably watch a little too much of, because I can find hilariously bad 80s action movies that are shot in 4:3 or who knows what. And the standards are a little bit lower. And if I have, 6 ad breaks in it, I watched it for free. They made a few pennies on that. Everyone's happy. So, content is king is a big thing, but also content is timeless. That was like, oh, the pandemic really crushed you guys. Actually, no. Anyone that was ever sitting on content was coming out of the woodwork, because it was like, everyone's watching stuff. We gotta publish all of it. And it's like, that's great. So just because your stuff feels old doesn't mean it doesn't have value. Again, I spent 3 hours explaining to my father how to watch the Rockford Files, and he is now watching the Rockford Files in 2021 because he figured it out. So whatever you have, no one knows what I'm talking about, but that's fine. Hogan's Heroes, all this other crap that I don't understand why people watch, but old people do. CBS All Access, exact same thing. So yes, do that. And to give us 5 minutes left.
Cool. He didn't write anymore if you had that question for him, but does everyone want to say how they can find you on social media, online? I'll go last. Amanda, do you want to go first? Oh, wait, maybe he came in. Oh, he said thanks. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Definitely. This has been a great episode, adding a lot of value. I've learned so much. I'm so grateful.
It was very educational. It was
How can we find you, Amanda? How can everyone stay in touch with you?
Okay, you can find me at amandalynnbias.com. Literally my whole name. You Google that. You can even find my arrest. Amanda Lynn Bias Instagram, Amanda Lynn Bias Twitter, Amanda Lynn Bias YouTube. I have Bay with the Z podcast as well. You can find me doing comedy on there, talking about film production, all that jazz.
Cool.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Love that. Nice to connect with a fellow comedian.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Jenica Schwartzman. You can find me mostly on Instagram, Jenica Renee. So it's JENNICA, like Jessica, Renee, RENEE. And you could also learn more about our boutique distribution and publishing house, Little Sister Entertainment, at littlesisterent.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tristan.
We'll do the business side first. Bitmax.net. We have a web form that I always like people to fill out because it gives me the basics. I'm going to ask for your IMDb link. I'm going to ask for your trailer link. I'm going to say, what country or part of the world are you in? That's the best way to get a hold of me on the business side of things. That doesn't stop people from going to LinkedIn, to going to my personal website, to going on Instagram, be like, check out my beats. That being said, you can find me across all the regular socials at Tristan Gregson. You can also find my arrest record there as well. And I'm not currently podcasting. Come on, I work in Hollywood, right? You got to have something. But I didn't touch anybody, and I won't.
Those Dodgers behind you, those little baseball guys?
Yeah, some of us call them bobbleheads. Little baseball guys is a good one though. I enjoy that. Yes. That's again, you gotta. This is a networking thing. You got to get in the sports game if you want to work in the video distribution game. So yeah, I it's true. I don't know how many lunches you had at a sporting event, but it's important.
Yeah, I grew up on baseball, softball because of my dad. So I mean, he's really into softball. So yeah, Detroit, what's up? Cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I am your host, Katie Chinagas. I'm an actor. I do voiceovers, and I have a popular podcast called She's All Over the Place. Check it out. And you can just find me everywhere on chinagas.com, and I'm on all social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the great questions. We'll see you next time. This has been a Crew Talk experience.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
You might be looking at Shoot Stop Video and thinking, so how does this all work? Is this about A, setting up the whole crew for me, B, just giving me options and having me handle it, or C, something in between? Well, it's D, all of the above. To put it simply, we're here to help you in any way that we can to get the crew and talent you need for your next production. We believe that every level of video production can benefit from a well-maintained list of qualified crew members for every position. This goes for pre-pro, on-set, and for post. Every project is different, so if you need a producer to help manage the decision-making process, then we can totally do that. If you're already a producer and want to build your own crew from scratch, then go for it. We're here to make your next production a success. And if you are crew or talent looking for producers that want you, then you've come to the right place. Sign up now, and also leave a referral for any solid people that you know that are already on here. Thank you for considering Shoot Stop Video, and happy shooting!